They called her Caliph Voss, the glass general. You didn't need to know the language to understand what that meant. When her fleets entered orbit, cities didn't scream or fight back. They went quiet. Power grids shut down. Traffic froze mid-lane. Government stopped broadcasting. Like the planet itself was holding its breath, hoping not to be noticed. I'd never seen her before. Only recordings. After-action briefings. Frozen frames of crystal ships cutting through atmosphere like knives through water. Her silhouette standing untouched in the middle of ruins that were still burning. So when I found her on Ash Meridian Station, it took my brain a few seconds to catch up. She was half buried under collapsed crystal plating, the kind her people used for everything. Armor, weapons, walls. A shard had punched clean through her side and pinned her to the deck. Light blue fluid leaked out of her in slow pulses, hissing when it hit the hot metal floor, crystallizing at the edges like frost. Her armor was split along the ribs. Hair, if that's what it was, hung loose, dull instead of luminous. Her breathing came in shallow, uneven pulls, each one sounding like it cost her something. Still dangerous, still feared, I knew that even lying there, broken and bleeding, she had personally ordered the deaths of more people than I'd ever meet in my life. And she was dying on my station. I stood there longer than I should have, listening to the hum of failing systems and the wet, wrong sound of her breathing, thinking only one thing. This was going to be a paperwork nightmare. I wasn't supposed to be anywhere near that section of the station. Hangar C was technically sealed after the last skirmish. Microfractures in the outer hull, unstable power relays, half the docking clamps stuck in diagnostic loops. Command tagged it non-critical, which in station language meant someone unlucky gets sent there eventually. That someone was me, Evan Brooks, maintenance auxiliary, third-tier contract, no weapon clearance, no heroics expected, night shift, again. I was dragging a pair of coolant hoses across the deck, the thick kind that fought you every meter like they resented being moved at all. My boots crunched over debris, crystal shards, melted plating, things I didn't bother identifying anymore. The overhead lights flickered between white and emergency amber, never quite deciding what kind of disaster we were in. I stopped twice to curse the lighting, once to curse the hoses, once more to curse whoever had decided coolant lines needed to weigh as much as a ground vehicle. I logged damage as I went, tapping notes into a terminal with a cracked screen. Hull scoring. Moderate power conduit C-17. Compromised unknown crystalline residue. Everywhere I didn't think about what kind of unknown crystalline residue that was. Thinking too much got people killed, or reassigned. The station was quiet in the way only post-battle stations were. No alarms, no chatter, just the low mechanical hum of systems pretending they weren't wounded. Air recyclers working overtime, structural braces ticking as they cooled. Then I heard breathing, not the soft, rhythmic airflow of vents, not the whine of pressure equalization. Breathing, wet, uneven, too slow for panic, too deliberate for machinery. I stopped walking. The hoses slid another half-meter before friction caught them. The sound echoed longer than it should have. I didn't reach for a weapon, didn't have one, just stood there, staring into the half-lit wreckage between docking pylons, listening. Breath, pause, another breath. Great, I muttered to no one. Another problem. That's how problems always announce themselves. Not with explosions or alarms. With some small, wrong detail that didn't belong in the background noise of your life. I followed the sound reluctantly, boots sticking slightly where something had spilled and cooled. The air smelled sharp, like overheated circuitry mixed with ozone. And something else, clean, almost sweet, crystal. I stepped around a collapsed tactical display, one of the portable command units, its holographic projector still sputtering weak blue shapes into the air. And that's when I saw her properly. She was larger than the recording suggested. Not bulky, just built with intent. Long limbs folded awkwardly under debris. Posture still wrongfully regal even while pinned to the floor. The shard through her side pulsed faintly, light traveling through it in slow waves, synchronized with her breathing. My first thought wasn't fear. It was logistics. She was blocking the main service lane. I sighed, loud enough that she heard it. Her breathing changed immediately, sharper, more controlled. The shift from injured to alert was subtle but unmistakable. Whatever pain she was in, she compartmentalized it fast. Professional. I nudged a loose crystal fragment aside with my boot and leaned closer, careful to stay out of reach. I'd seen what her kind could do unarmed. Videos didn't exaggerate much. She didn't open her eyes yet. Of all the places, I said, mostly to myself. You had to collapse right here. No response. I knelt, not beside her, off to the side, where I could see the wound without being directly in line with anything sharp. The shard had missed vital structures, I thought. At least the ones I'd memorized from emergency xenobiology courses I'd never expected to use. Light blue fluid pooled beneath her, already starting to crystallize where it cooled. It hissed softly against the deck plating, eating faint grooves into the metal. Yeah, I muttered. That's not great. That's when she opened one eye. It focused on me instantly. Not confusion, not fear. Assessment, the kind that measured distance, posture, reaction time. The look of someone who'd spent a lifetime turning situations into advantages. And suddenly, the stories clicked into place. The stillness, the silence that followed her fleets. The reason entire cities went dark without firing a shot. This wasn't just some wounded alien. This was her, the glass general. I felt it then. Not fear, exactly. More like the mental equivalent of realizing you'd stepped onto a live power conduit. The awareness came first, the reaction lagged behind. She spoke in accented standard, voice low and brittle, like chimes shaken in a storm. Human, she said. Finish it. I blinked. That wasn't what I'd expected. I glanced back at the shard, then at the spreading crystal blood creeping dangerously close to a junction box. Then back at her. You're leaking, I said. Paused. Try not to get it on the wiring. She stared at me. I could practically hear the recalculation happening behind those fractured, glassy eyes. I was supposed to be screaming, or running, or begging. Instead, I was worried about corrosion reports. You know who I am, she said slowly. Yeah, I replied, already pulling my medkit off my belt. You're blocking the service lane. Her eye narrowed, and for the first time since I'd arrived on Ash Meridian Station, I realized my night shift was about to get a lot longer. She didn't move at first, didn't threaten me, didn't lunge, didn't try anything dramatic. She just lay there, pinned to the deck by a shard of her own technology, watching me with that one open eye like she was trying to decide which category of problem I belonged in. Predator, tool, accident. You are aware, she said, carefully, that your species executes my rank on sight. I said. I crouched a little lower, not closer, just enough to get a better angle on the wound. The shard was crystalline, semi-translucent, still humming faintly. Vexary architecture had a habit of staying active long after it should have been dead. Bad habit, dangerous habit. You're also aware, she continued, that I am responsible for the fall of 12 population centers. I pressed 2 fingers against the deck near the pooled blood, watching how fast it crystallized. That's so, I said, because I'm responsible for coolant pressure in Hangar C, and right now that feels more urgent. Her jaw tightened. I could tell she wasn't used to this. Not the words. I was sure she'd heard worse. It was the tone, the lack of weight, like I was talking about a broken lift instead of the most feared commander in 3 systems. You are afraid, she said. Not a question. An assertion, I snorted. Lady, if I reacted to everything on this station that tried to kill me, I'd never get anything done. I pulled out a scanner, waved it over the shard. The readout flickered, struggling to interpret alien materials. Don't move, I added. I am immobilized, she replied coldly. People say that right before they're not. Her eye tracked the scanner, then my hands, then my face. You should not be here, she said. I say that every night, I replied. Doesn't help. She inhaled sharply. Pain, probably, or irritation. Hard to tell with her kind. Their control was impressive. Creepy, but impressive. You will gain nothing by prolonging this, she said. My death is inevitable. Yeah, I said. So is mine, just usually not before breakfast. That finally did it. Her eye widened a fraction. Not fear. Surprise. You mock me, she said. Not intentionally, I replied. It's more of a lifestyle. I reached for the shard experimentally, then stopped. The angle was bad. Pulling it straight out would tear something important. Even I knew that much. She noticed my hesitation. You hesitate, she said. Why? I glanced up at her. Because if I mess this up, you die faster, I said. And I don't feel like cleaning that up. Silence. Not the dramatic kind. The analytical kind. The kind where someone is quietly revising everything they thought they knew about a situation. You could kill me, she said again, more softly this time. End this. Be done. I shrugged. Command didn't give me a bonus for executions, I said. But they do dock pay for equipment damage. And you're currently damaging the floor. Her gaze flicked to the spreading crystallization. You place material concerns above strategic victory, she said. I place sleep above both, I replied. And right now, you're in the way of that. She exhaled slowly. I have commanded armies, she said. Entire fleets have burned at my word. Congrats, I said. I once fixed a recycler unit with a paperclip and a prayer. Her lips parted, just slightly. If she'd been human, I would have called it a frown. You do not respect me, she said. I finally looked her directly in the eye. No, I said. I just don't care. That was the wrong thing to say. Her breathing hitched, not from the wound, from something else. Her fingers twitched against the deck, scraping faint lines into the metal. The hum from the shard spiked for a second, then stabilized. You should be afraid, she said, voice lower now. Every human I have faced has been. Yeah, I said. Most of them were soldiers. And you are not? I glanced down at my grease-stained coveralls. Do I look like I signed up for this? She studied me in silence. I could almost see the internal files flipping. No weapon, no insignia, no combat stance. Just a tired guy with bad posture and worse life choices. What is your designation? She asked. Evan Brooks. A pause. That is not a rank. Yeah, I said. That's because I don't have one. Another pause. Then why are you here? I gestured around us. Because someone has to keep the station from falling apart while everyone else plays hero. Her eyes softened, not emotionally, structurally, like some internal tension had been released. You are ordinary, she said. Painfully, I agreed. For a moment, neither of us spoke. The station hummed. Somewhere far away, a bulkhead settled with a dull clang. Then she said, very quietly, ordinary humans do not kneel beside monsters. I taped a sensor to the shard, careful not to touch her skin. Then don't move, I said. And don't call yourself a monster. Makes the paperwork weird. She watched me work, didn't thank me, didn't threaten me again. And for the first time since her fleets entered human space, the glass general had no idea what was going to happen next. Getting her to the maintenance bay was harder than I expected. Not because she resisted. She didn't. She went still the moment I slid a cargo sled under her, limbs stiff, posture controlled like she was choosing dignity over comfort. The shard through her side made every movement wrong, every vibration a gamble. I adjusted the sled stabilizers twice, muttering under my breath, before it finally stopped rattling. Try not to pass out, I said, gripping the handle. I do not lose consciousness, she replied. Everyone says that. I started pulling. The maintenance bay wasn't far. 3 corridors, 1 collapsed access tunnel, and a door that liked to pretend it didn't recognize my clearance. The station lights dimmed and brightened in cycles, emergency power rerouting itself with all the confidence of a drunk engineer. Tools hung from magnetic racks along the walls. Spools of cable, open crates, oil stains that never really came out no matter how many times you scrubbed. This place smelled like heat, metal, and old mistakes. Familiar, safe, in a way command centers never were. I dragged her inside and sealed the door behind us. The moment the bay went quiet, I felt it. The shift. 2 enemies in the same enclosed space with nothing between them but workbenches and bad decisions. She watched everything, the way my hands moved, the placement of tools, the fact that I kept my body angled, never fully turning my back on her. You are isolating us, she said. Yeah, I replied. Bay doors seal better than med wards. Less traffic, or fewer witnesses. I looked over my shoulder. Relax. If I wanted you dead, I wouldn't need privacy. That earned me a long look. I set the sled brakes and grabbed a cutting torch, then stopped. Torch was wrong. Too much heat. I swapped it out for a precision saw, then hesitated again. Hold still, I said. I cannot move, she reminded me. Good. That makes this easier. I didn't touch her unless I had to. Not because of fear, because she was sharp in ways humans weren't. Wrong angles, edges where skin shouldn't have edges. Even wounded, she felt like something you could get cut on just by standing too close. You should kill me, she said suddenly. I didn't look up. I should clock out, I replied. But this looks faster. The saw whined to life. I adjusted the frequency, watching the readout stabilize. Her blood, E-core, if you believe the briefings, continued to crystallize slowly beneath her, creeping toward the drain like it was curious. She didn't flinch when the saw bit into the shard. Her jaw tightened. That was all. You do not ask questions, she said. I'm working, I said. Asking questions slows things down. You do not ask why. I know why, I replied. You got hit. You didn't die. Now you're my problem. That is not. I cut deeper. The shard vibrated, sending a tremor through her body. Her breathing hitched once. sharp, then evened out again. You're going to feel that, I said. I am aware of pain. Good. Saves time. The shard came free in pieces. Not clean, not graceful, but effective. The moment the last fragment slid out, her body reacted. Blood surged, light blue and hissing, splattering against my gloves. Don't move, I said, already reaching for sealant. Her voice tightened. I am not moving. I packed the wound fast. Clotting foam, pressure wrap, a brace to keep the edges from reopening. Human gear, not designed for her, but pressure was pressure, and chemistry didn't care about species. She made a sound then. Not a scream, not a cry, something sharp and involuntary, cut off almost immediately, like her body had betrayed her before she could stop it. I pretended not to notice. I finished sealing the wound and stepped back, tossing my gloves into a disposal bin. There, I said. You're not dying anymore. She stared at the ceiling. That was inefficient, she said. Welcome to human medicine. Silence settled between us. The bay lights hummed. Somewhere inside the station, bulkheads shifted as evacuation protocols rerouted traffic. She turned her head slightly, enough to look at me. You are not a soldier, she said. Nope, you are not command. God, no. Then why risk this? I leaned against the workbench and rubbed my eyes. Because, I said, if I didn't, you'd bleed out on my floor. And then I'd have to explain that to someone who makes more money than me. She considered that. This space, she said. It is crude. Yeah, I replied. But it works. She flexed her fingers experimentally, then stopped when the wound protested. You are performing maintenance, she said. That's literally my job. No, she corrected. On me. I shrugged. Everything breaks eventually. She closed her eye again. Not in sleep, in thought. For a while, neither of us spoke. No romance, no comfort, just the shared sound of a station trying to stay alive while the universe outside decided whether it cared. And for the first time since I dragged her off the hangar floor, I realized something unsettling. She wasn't watching me like a threat anymore. She was watching me like a variable she couldn't account for. Say the word when you're ready for part 5, or if you want anything changed before I continue. The alarms didn't go off all at once. They never do. First came the vibration. Low frequency, almost below hearing. The kind that settled into your teeth and made tools rattle on magnetic clamps. The maintenance bay lights flickered, dipped to red for half a second, then returned to white like nothing had happened. I froze. That wasn't internal damage. That was proximity. Then the station AI finally caught up. Alert. Unregistered contacts detected alert. Multiple WARFORMS inbound alert. Evacuation protocols initiated. The bay doors shuddered as blast seals slid into place somewhere deeper in the station. Overhead, a distant thud echoed through the superstructure, followed by another. Docking clamps disengaging. Ships scrambling. I swore under my breath. Figures. She opened both eyes this time. The shift in her was immediate. Pain didn't disappear, but it stopped being the priority. Her posture changed subtly, even lying on the sled, spine straighter. Breathing controlled. Whatever she was, Commander was not just a title. It was a mode. They are here, she said. For what? I asked, already moving toward the control panel. For me, I glanced back at her. Fan club? She didn't respond to that. Termination fleet, she said instead. The words landed heavier than they should have. Not because I knew what they meant, because I could hear it in the way she said them. Flat, certain, like gravity. I pulled up external sensors on the cracked terminal. The display lagged, then resolved into a mess of overlapping signatures. Crystal hulls, angular profiles. Too many. Unregistered, I muttered. No transponders. No hails. That is correct, she said. They will not announce themselves. Another impact rippled through the station. Stronger this time. The deck flexed under my boots. Those ships, I said, are not here for trade. No. I keyed into the station channel. Static. Then panicked voices layered over each other. Half-formed orders, incomplete status reports. People talking too fast because they knew they didn't have time. This is station command, someone finally shouted. All personnel proceed to evacuation points. This is not a drill. I looked at her again. You bring a lot of trouble with you. Yes. No apology. No denial. They will breach, she continued. If the station attempts to shield, they will overload it. If it attempts to flee, they will pursue. If it surrenders, she stopped. They will still destroy it. Great, I said. Love a thorough enemy. Another explosion. Closer. The lights cut out completely this time, plunging the bay into emergency amber. The air recyclers kicked up to maximum, whining like they were scared. I grabbed my toolkit, mostly out of habit. So let me guess, I said. They want to make sure you don't talk. They want to make sure I do not exist, she corrected. I paused. That's worse. Yes, the station AI chimed again. Evacuation window. Limited priority assets only, I snorted. Priority, I said. That's cute. She turned her head toward me, studying my face. You should leave, she said. You are not their target. Yeah, I replied, but I am currently on a station that is. Another impact. The maintenance bay door buckled inward slightly, then held. Warning lights strobed along its frame. They are precise, she said. They will cut through the station section by section. They will not rush. Panic is inefficient. Your people sound fun at parties. She ignored that. This station was marked the moment I was brought here, she said. Whether you knew it or not. I leaned against the workbench and ran a hand through my hair. So this is my fault for not letting you bleed out in Hangar C. She didn't answer immediately. No, she said finally. It is my fault for surviving. That almost sounded like regret. Almost. The floor trembled again, harder. Something structural failed somewhere above us. The sound carried through the bay like a scream cut short. I pulled up the internal map. Evacuation routes were already flashing red as sections went offline. We don't have much time, I said. They will reach this level within minutes, she replied. I looked at her. Really looked. Wounded. Restrained by nothing but circumstance. The most dangerous being in the room. And also the reason the room was about to stop existing. You could have mentioned this earlier, I said. You did not ask, she replied. Fair. The station channel crackled again. A new voice this time. Tighter. Controlled. Command. Probably trying not to sound like they were losing control of their own station. All hands, the voice said. We are under direct assault. Unknown enemy forces are neutralizing defensive platforms. Evacuation craft are launching now. I exhaled slowly. Well, I said, that answers that. She watched me carefully. You are not running, she observed. I'm working, I said. On what? I wasn't entirely sure yet. Outside the bay, something detonated with enough force to make the tools fall from their racks. The sled rocked. She braced instinctively, one hand gripping the edge. Evan Brooks, she said. I looked at her. You should not remain here. I gestured around us. Little late for good decisions. She studied my face like she was trying to memorize it. The destruction of this station is acceptable to them, she said. Collateral is irrelevant. That's comforting. They will not stop, she added. Not for evacuation, not for surrender. The implication hung in the air. Everything that was happening, the alarms, the impacts, the countdown to annihilation, it all traced back to the same source. Her, the glass general. And for the first time since I dragged her into my bay, the scale of it settled in. I hadn't just saved an enemy commander. I'd anchored a war to my workplace. The lights flickered again. Somewhere nearby, a bulkhead failed completely. I tightened my grip on the edge of the workbench. Well, I said, forcing my voice to stay level. Guess we're past the quiet part. She inclined her head, just slightly. Yes, she said. Now comes the consequence. And the station began to die around us. The station shuddered again, harder this time. Not an impact. Something internal failing. The kind of deep structural groan that meant stress limits had been crossed somewhere important. I didn't look at her right away. I was staring at the schematic on the terminal, watching sections of Ash Meridian Station go dark one by one. Habitat rings first, then storage, then the outer sensor spines. The AI was trying to be optimistic, rerouting power like it believed effort alone could change the outcome. It couldn't. You said termination fleet, I said finally. Yes. You said they won't stop. Yes. I turned to face her. Then tell me why they're willing to wipe an entire station off the map just to make sure you're dead. She didn't answer immediately. That was new. Up close, I could see the strain in her now. Not pain, not fear. Something tighter, like she was choosing which truth to release and which to keep buried. I am not a commander in the way your species understands command, she said. Okay, I replied. That's already not great. She shifted slightly on the sled, careful of the wound. The light blue blood at the edges had gone duller, less reactive. My sealant was holding. For now, I do not issue orders, she continued. I do not negotiate. I do not inspire loyalty. Could have fooled me, I muttered. She ignored that. I am a convergence point, she said. A control architecture. I frowned. Say that again, I said. But simpler, she considered. I am not a leader, she said. I am an override. That got my attention. I folded my arms, leaning back against the workbench. Override of what? Doctrine. Strategy. Escalation thresholds. The words came out precise, clinical. Like she'd explained this before. Not to enemies, to engineers. My species does not wage war emotionally, she said. We do not adapt on instinct. We calculate. We optimize. Yeah, I said. We noticed. Our fleets operate within defined parameters, she continued. Acceptable loss, acceptable duration, acceptable cost. She looked at me. I am the mechanism that alters those parameters. The station shook again. Somewhere overhead, something tore free and slammed into the hull. So, I said slowly, you're the button? Yes. I let out a breath I hadn't realized I was holding. And if the button breaks? Doctrine resets. To what? To caution, she said. To stagnation. To internal recalculation. I stared at her. You're telling me this entire war, years of fighting, burned colonies, shattered fleets, hinges on you being alive and active? Yes. And if you disappear? She met my eyes. The war loses coherence. That word stuck with me. Coherence. Not ends. Not peace. Just stops making sense. I scrubbed a hand over my face. You could have mentioned this earlier. You did not ask, she said again. I laughed once. Short, sharp. No humor in it. Of course I didn't. Another alarm cut through the bay. Closer now. A proximity alert. Boarding range. They are not here to retrieve me, she said quietly. They are here to erase me. Because you're compromised, I said. Yes. Because you survived. Yes. Because you're here. Yes. I gestured around us. Then congratulations. You picked a hell of a place to malfunction. Her lips pressed together. If she felt shame, it didn't show the way humans expected. But something in her posture shifted, just slightly. Less command. More weight. I was not meant to experience pain the way I did, she said. The injury destabilized my internal harmonics. You screamed, I said. Her eyes flicked to mine. Yes, that wasn't in the plan. No, and now you're... What? Glitching? She considered the word. Yes, the idea settled in my gut like bad food. So your people's solution, I said, is to kill the glitch. They will not risk unpredictability, she said. Especially not embodied. I looked back at the terminal, at the spreading red zones, at the evacuation craft already pulling away from the station, tiny heat signatures racing for open space. And if they succeed, I said, your war machine goes back to default settings. Yes, less aggressive. Yes, but not over. No, I nodded slowly. That tracks. She watched me carefully. You were processing this with unusual calm, she said. I'm tired, I replied. And honestly, this is above my pay grade. The bay door buckled again. This time it didn't recover fully. A fracture line crept across the frame, glowing faintly. They will breach this section, she said. Soon. I glanced at her restraints. There weren't any. Just a wounded alien weapon lying on a cargo sled in my maintenance bay, calmly explaining that her existence was the reason a station full of people was about to die. So let me get this straight, I said. If I let them take you, they kill you, reset the war. And everyone on this station still probably dies in the process. Yes, and if I help you disappear, they will pursue, she said, relentlessly. I nodded. Figures. She tilted her head. You do not seem impressed. I fix broken systems for a living, I said. Yours just happens to be sentient. For the first time since I'd met her, something in her expression fractured. Not physically. Conceptually. Like that sentence didn't fit anywhere in her internal architecture. You are treating me, she said slowly, as infrastructure. Yeah, I replied. Dangerous infrastructure. But still infrastructure. Another explosion rocked the station. The lights cut out completely this time. Emergency glow strips snapping along the floor. She closed her eyes briefly. If I remain here, she said, everyone dies. I said nothing. If I leave, she continued, many will still die. But not all. I still said nothing. She opened her eyes again. You should be afraid of me, she said. Of what I represent. I met her gaze. I'm annoyed, I said. That's not the same thing. The bay filled with the distant sound of hull breaches. Sharp, crystalline detonations echoing through the station's spine. She looked past me, toward the sealed door, toward the end. They are close, she said. I nodded once. Yeah, I replied. I know. And for the first time since she'd started talking, Caliph Voss, the glass general, the control node, the thing entire fleets were willing to die to erase, looked uncertain. Not about the war, about me. I didn't make a speech, didn't announce a decision. I just walked past her, keyed in my clearance. and unlocked the maintenance bay's outer doors. The indicator light flashed red, then green. The seals disengaged with a heavy clunk that echoed through the bay. "That's a stupid system," I said, more to myself than to her. "Very expensive, very loud." She stared at the open doors. Beyond them, the auxiliary launch corridor stretched out, dim, scarred, half lit by emergency strips. At the far end sat a service shuttle, old, ugly, barely armed, the kind of thing no one bothered to log properly because it was supposed to stay docked forever. I crossed back to a locker, dug around, and pulled out a worn station jacket. Burn mark on the sleeve, missing one fastener. I tossed it at her. "Put that on," I said. "You glow too much." She caught it reflexively, then paused, fingers tightening on the fabric. "You were releasing me," she said. "Yeah, you understand what follows." "Roughly." She swung her legs off the sled slowly, testing her weight. The wound held, barely. She stood, unsteady for half a second, then straightened. Even injured, she moved like someone used to space making room for her. "You are not afraid," she said again. I shrugged. "No," I replied. "I'm just tired." That seemed to land harder than fear ever would have. The station shook. Somewhere close, metal screamed as something gave way. Over the open corridor, I could hear distant weapons fire. Boarding teams. Too close now. She looked at the shuttle, then at me. "If I leave," she said, "they will follow. They will hunt this vessel. They will not stop." "Yeah," I said. "They're already doing that." "And you?" "I'll file a report," I said. "Assuming there's still a station to file it to." She studied my face, like she was trying to understand a language without a translation matrix. Power meant nothing here. Reputation meant nothing. She was just another system being rerouted. "I do not understand you," she said. "That makes two of us." She hesitated at the threshold. Just for a moment, long enough that I noticed. "You treated me," she said slowly, "as something that could be fixed." I leaned against the doorframe. "Everything breaks," I said. "Some things just need time." She pulled the jacket tighter around herself, then stepped into the corridor. Walked toward the shuttle without looking back. At the ramp, she stopped. "You will be remembered," she said. I snorted. "Doubt it." The shuttle powered up, engines whining, then settling into a low, steady hum. The ramp closed. Lights flared once. Then she was gone. The launch corridor went dark. Silence rushed in to fill the space she'd left behind. I stood there for a few seconds longer than necessary, then turned back to the terminal. The cracked screen flickered to life, asking for a final status update. I typed one line: structural damage, cuz, unknown, saved it, logged out. The hangar lights dimmed again as power rerouted elsewhere. Somewhere far away, alarms faded. Somewhere farther, ships burned. I sat down on a crate, rested my elbows on my knees, and waited for whatever came next. No victory, no closure, just distance, and the quiet after something powerful left without being treated as special. If you want to see more similar stories, subscribe to the channel and like this video. You don't lose anything, and you can change it at any time. Thanks for watching. See you in the new video.